നമസ്കാരം. വർഷങ്ങളായി നമ്മുടെ രാജ്യത്ത് അത് കശ്മീർ മുതൽ കന്യാകുമാരി വരെ ആയാലും കാശ്മീർ ഒരു ചർച്ചാ വിഷയമാണ്. പതിറ്റാണ്ടുകളായി അതാണ്. പക്ഷേ 2019 ശേഷം ആ ചർച്ച മറ്റൊരു ദിശയിലേക്ക് വഴിമാറുകയാണ്. കശ്മീരിൽ നിന്നുള്ള വിശേഷങ്ങൾ ആ കശ്മീരിൽ നിന്നുള്ള ഒരാളിൽ നിന്ന് കേട്ടാൽ തീർച്ചയായും അതൊരു രസകരമായ കാര്യം തന്നെയായിരിക്കും. മാത്രമല്ല സത്യാന്വേഷണികളെ സംബന്ധിച്ചിടത്തോളം അത് വളരെ പ്രധാനപ്പെട്ടതുമായിരിക്കും. അതുകൊണ്ട് തന്നെ ഇന്ന് നമ്മോടൊപ്പം ഉള്ളത് ഒരു ജേർണലിസ്റ്റാണ്, ഒരു മാധ്യമ പ്രവർത്തകനാണ്. അദ്ദേഹം ദില്ലി കേന്ദ്രീകരിച്ച് ജോലി ചെയ്യുന്ന ഒരു മാധ്യമ പ്രവർത്തകനാണ്. അദ്ദേഹം ഒരു കശ്മീരി കൂടിയാണ്. അദ്ദേഹം രാജ മുനീബ് എന്ന മാധ്യമ പ്രവർത്തകനാണ്. അദ്ദേഹത്തോട് നമുക്ക് ഇന്നത്തെ കശ്മീരിനെ കുറിച്ച് ചോദിച്ചറിയാം. നമസ്കാർ ജി. മുനീബ് ജി, हम जानते हैं कि कश्मीर बिफोर 2019 what is Kashmir we all know. After 2019 also we had some information through news. सच में इसका फर्क क्या है ये 2019 बिफोर एंड आफ्टर नाउ?
सी चेंज बहुत फर्क है. See, before 2019 you had a lot of separatist organizations and leaders who were on the ground. They were operating without any strong action against them. You had strikes. They had an ecosystem which was calling for anti-national activities. You had students who were not able to go to schools. You had protests which were literally every week. You had a lot of stone pelting which used to happen. Right, so whole that ecosystem of violence and that anti-national kind of political ideology which was flourishing on the ground, that has stopped. Post 2019, no separatist politics is allowed. They are behind the bars, right? They have been arrested. The biggest thing also is the crackdown on the terror funding which has happened. Before 2019, we have not seen this kind of crackdown on terror funding and terrorists the way we have seen after 2019. So that has broken the back of terrorism in Kashmir. There are a lot of efforts from the government also to make sure that the young generation doesn't go and pick up weapons. So there is a lot of sanitization which has happened in the society. There is also a lot of realization which has happened post 2019. So the difference is very huge. I mean, what we used to see Kashmir before 2019 and what do you see today, I don't think from 1990 till 2019 there was hardly a time that a child would attend a school or a college for the whole year. It was always very less periods. It was always marked with trouble, with violence, with everything. But after 2019, children are actually going to school. They are, more invested now into their careers. They are more invested into education. There is peace on the ground. And that translates in itself for a lot for what Kashmir has seen in 30 years. That's a huge change.
ये आर्टिकल 370 वो सच में एक इम्यूनिटी था सेपरेटिस्ट के लिए, और ये टेरर फंडिंग दैट स्टॉप्ड आफ्टर दिस कटिंग ऑफ इम्यूनिटी. एंड अब ये अभी क्या चलते हैं कि पूरा नॉर्मलिटी में आ गए है कश्मीर. और
नॉर्मलिटी किसको हम बोलते हैं? अगर हम डे टू डे लाइफ को बोलते हैं, अगर आप कश्मीर का देखोगे, आई विल गिव यू अ डेटा. In 30 years, अगर आप स्ट्राइक्स का पीरियड देखोगे कश्मीर में, जो हड़ताल जिसको हम प्रोटेस्ट बोलते हैं, स्ट्राइक्स, कंप्लीट स्ट्राइक्स, Kashmiris have lost 7.5 years out of that 30 years in strikes. What does that translate into business, into education, into other spheres? So literally 7.5 years, if you don't have work, you're sat at home, you have no education, no school, right? No other activities. That tells you that what Kashmir lost. But since 2019, no strikes, business is regular. There is a lot of tourist flow. Record number of tourists are coming to Kashmir. So Kashmir is slowly getting back to pre-90, what it was. In 80s, 70s, you have Bollywood coming back to Kashmir. There are a lot of shootings of movies which are happening. So Kashmir is going where it was before 1990, before the extremism and the violence. Now it is restoring itself slowly. And yes, there is a lot of change on the ground. So normalcy, I will say there is a huge normalcy in Kashmir.
The local support, ये सेपरेटिस्ट के साथ में था पहले, बट अभी वो आर्म्ड फोर्सेस को सपोर्ट करते हैं. लेकिन ये बाइफर्केशन कश्मीर एंड लद्दाख, ये बाइफर्केशन का इफेक्ट क्या है अभी?
See, देखो, bifurcation of Kashmir and Ladakh, Ladakhis का बहुत पहले से ये डिमांड था कि they wanted a union territory, and this is from years they wanted this to happen. Also, if you look at the culture between Kashmir and Ladakh, it's very, very different. You know, they're predominantly Buddhist part, very less population, about 2.5 lakh people. That's about in the region. They always felt left out from the state government, from the politics of the state, and they wanted more, governance into their hands. They wanted more of their say into the government, and they always wanted to be the part of the UT, because they believe that if they are part of the UT, their own developmental issues, their own local issues will be addressed much better. As far as Kashmir is concerned, and separating of Ladakh with Kashmir is concerned, apart from administrative things, I mean, nothing. The region is there, the land is there, everything is there, right? It's not separated. You still see a lot of Ladakhis who come to Kashmir in summers. There are a lot of Ladakhis who have houses in Srinagar, who have houses in Jammu. They still come and they still live there. So that bonding is not there. But yes, administratively, the two places are different. The Ladakhis demanded that for a very long time, and they rightly got it. So
they are getting 100% advantage.
They they basically got their demand. It was their demand to have a UT, and now they have a UT. So they got their demand. They're happy with it. Yeah.
Still, some concerns are there in Kashmir. Recently, NIA raided most businessmen in Kashmir about terror funding. That means terror funding chalta hai abhi bhi.
See, you cannot wish Pakistan away. जब तक पाकिस्तान है टेररिज्म रहेगा, बट दैट लेवल ऑफ टेररिज्म जो हमने 90 से 2018 तक देखा है वो बहुत कम हो गया. बट पाकिस्तान की कोशिश हमेशा रहती है, दे ऑलवेज ट्राई टू कीप दिस पॉट बॉइलिंग, कीप कश्मीर ऑन टेररिज्म एज, कीप इन्फिल्ट्रेट. यू सी अ लॉट ऑफ ड्रग्स आर कमिंग इनटू कश्मीर.
यस.
NIA raids.
Drones are coming.
Drones. They are throwing. They're bringing weapons. They're bringing drugs from drones now. So they have also changed their strategy, right? And more than weapons, it's drugs now. They're pushing a lot of drugs from Punjab and from Kashmir. But the effect of terrorism or the effect of radicalization which Pakistan was able to achieve, or get the boys to pick up the weapons and look at recruitments, that has gone down, and the NIA raids will continue because it's not something very simple.
Yes.
It's like an onion. You keep peeling one layer, there is another layer, there is another layer. So all these layers have to be unearthed, and it takes a lot of time because when you start getting hard on them, they also start getting innovative with their kind of terror funding. So the problem is that Pakistan hasn't stopped. Unless and until Pakistan doesn't fully stop their support to terrorism, which I don't think is going to happen, they will never stop. But that is the only way where you'll see terrorism dropping to zero. Otherwise, you'll always have a small percentage of those people who will still go for this. Because, the conflict economy is huge. It was a huge part of Kashmir. It was a huge business. And when people are invested in their businesses, they try to find ways to keep their business alive. And that is what Kashmir is.
And what about hopes of Kashmiris about reunification? I mean, the POK.
See, POK is a political... It's a different matter altogether, right? When we talk about people-to-people contact, there is no contact. The relationship between India and Pakistan is so bad that, it's not possible right now. And rightly so, because every time India has tried to build that relationship, Pakistan has responded with terror attacks. We have seen it in Mumbai. We have seen it in Kashmir. We have seen it in Pathankot. We have seen it with... Pulwama. So time and again Pakistan has been using that strategy, and I think it is about time that the Indian government put their foot down and said that no, enough is enough, we don't want to do that. But really, people to people contact is something which is not there physically. But those who have their relatives still speak to them on the phone. Now you have technology. Okay. So you have video calls, you have voice calls, right? So they're able to maintain that thing. But yes, they want to, visit them. And they do go. I mean, they apply for visas and they go. But if we say reunification of POK, it is not something which is going to happen unless and until Pakistan disintegrates completely. And their political position is very, very bad. But that disintegration is not there, right? So unless that doesn't happen, I don't think that physically reuniting POK with rest of Jammu and Kashmir is something which will happen very soon.
And finally, as a journalist from Kashmir, what do you feel about Kerala? Do you feel any negative ecosystem in Kerala?
No, largely, I will tell you something. It's a beautiful place, beautiful people. People are really helpful. They go out of the way. You feel very safe moving here. No problems. Nobody is there to. You don't feel that you'll get scammed or threatened or robbed or even no beggars also, which was very surprising for me. But there are pockets. When you, as a Kashmiri journalist who has tracked terrorism and whose subject is, studying terrorism, there are some similarities and there are pockets. There are pockets where there is radicalization. We have people who left for ISIS from here, right? There are more boys who have left from Kerala for ISIS than there are more from who have left from Kashmir.
Yeah.
In Kashmir, they have not gone and joined the global jihad.
Yes.
Very, very few are there. Yes, they were, but very, very few. The number is very less. Kerala, the number is very high. And that is a worry. Why is that a worry? Because, any extremist radicalization is a threat to national security. Today, they might be going and joining ISIS in Afghanistan, but tomorrow they might turn inward and, start disrupting law and order and peace within the country, and that becomes a threat. So in that way, there are pockets here. Very small pockets, but there are pockets here where there is always a threat and it is coming forward. So I think that is something which needs to be looked at into a much more, I would say, concentrated way. And it needs to be differentiated also. You have to go hard on terror. You cannot let terror have any foot space on your land, because once it gets a foothold, because we have faced it, we know how bad it is. So once it gets a foothold, no matter how small, it's problematic for the society. It's at the end of the day, it's common people who are the victims and who suffer. So I don't think there should be any, justification of such extremist organizations working in Kerala or anybody even trying to justify their presence. I think that is something we should not be there.
ഓക്കെ, എന്തായാലും കശ്മീരിനെ കുറിച്ചുള്ള ചിന്തകൾ, പുതിയ ചിന്തകൾ, കശ്മീർ പുനരാവിഷ്കരിക്കപ്പെട്ടുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്നു, അതിൻ്റെ പ്രതീക്ഷ, സന്തോഷം എല്ലാം അദ്ദേഹം പങ്കുവയ്ക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. അതുമാത്രമല്ല, ജിഹാദ് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ തീവ്രവാദം അതിനെ അവസാനിപ്പിക്കുക, അതിൻ്റെക്കുള്ള സാമ്പത്തിക സഹായങ്ങളും അതിൻ്റെ കണ്ണികളെയും മുറിച്ച് കളയുക, അത് എത്ര എളുപ്പമല്ല. അത് കേന്ദ്ര സർക്കാരും NIAയും എല്ലാം വളരെ ജാഗ്രതയോടുകൂടി ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ട്. അതോടൊപ്പം കശ്മീരി പത്രപ്രവർത്തകൻ എന്ന നിലയിൽ അവിടുത്തെ അനുഭവ സമ്പത്ത് വെച്ചുകൊണ്ട് അദ്ദേഹം കേരളത്തെ വിലയിരുത്തുന്നതും ചില സാമ്യതകളെ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ചില സാമ്യതകൾ അദ്ദേഹം കാണുന്നു എന്നുള്ളത് കൊണ്ടാണ്. അത് തീവ്രവാദവുമായി ബന്ധപ്പെട്ടതാണ്. അത് കേരളത്തിൻ്റെ സമൂഹം ഇരുന്ന് ചിന്തിക്കേണ്ട ഒരു കാര്യം കൂടിയാണ്. വെബ് ഡെസ്ക്, തത്വമയി ന്യൂസ്.
പവർഡ് ബൈ ദിഗന്ത റിസോർട്ട്, അഹമ്മദാബാദ്, ഗുജറാത്ത്. ഫോൺ 9099055135.